These are just some random clips from July 28th, Sunday morning service in Graham. Mike preaching.
Revelation 21:8 said, all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire that burneth with brimstone. Burneth with brimstone.
I wonder how many people really know what brimstone is. And if he were to believe that were true, why would he say it like that? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, burneth with brimstone. Ooh. It just comes across like he thinks it's cool to say it. And not necessarily that he thinks it's a real event that needs explaining or defining or describing. This is the type of thing manipulators do. It doesn't matter if you understand what brimstone is and what Revelation said about it. Does not matter. The point has to be that he is putting in the minds of those listening that I took this from the Bible, and this is what's going to happen to liars. It's not good, whatever it is. He didn't define it. And pretty soon here, I'm going to tell you who the liars are. Not yet, but just hang on.
We don't get it. But I pay tithe because he said, bring your tithe and offerings into my house that there may be meat there. And it was used in the Old Testament to meet the needs of the church, to pay the staff, to take care of everybody.
Wow, this is stunning. He's taking modern Christian stuff, and it's modern Christian stuff. This is not how the church started in the book he says he believes in. He's really stretching it here, stretching the truth and molding it into something totally different. And he doesn't care. And he doesn't care if you're sitting there like, wait a minute. There was no staff in the Old Testament. There was no church. It was the temple, and it was the Levitical tribe, and there was a reason why the tithes were given. This isn't going to be a lesson on that. It's right there in the Old Testament. You can go read it. They quote it enough because that's the only thing they have to justify tithes in their New Testament belief system, in their NTCC man-made doctrines that they push. And they just decided one day, hey, you know, it'd be cool if we told everybody that if you don't tithe, you go to hell. Oh, man, then they got to pay. Yeah, and by the way, Mike, remember this? Keep it in mind.
It said, all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire that burneth with brimstone. And all people get nervous when you bring this up because everybody thinks that the church is out for money.
Well, this particular group that calls itself a church is out for money because listen to what Mike says about money they owe on taxes.
Just on this church campus, we have a tax exemption as a 501c3 organization and charity. We are legit.
This cracks me up every time I hear it. When you have to say that, that is, we're legit. We're legit. Legit what? I've mentioned this before, that the way we're taxed in this country is out of control. Way, way out of control. So it doesn't matter, though, if I agree with what they do up in Washington State regarding taxes. These people knew that if they built a building, it was going to be taxed at a crazy amount. They built them anyway. There was no need. You build when there's burgeoning. You build when there's an obvious need. And Davis never did that. And look what they're saddled with now. And why should some unsuspecting person or Bible school students or languishing ministers up there in Graham have to fork over the cash because they're irresponsible? The leadership of NTCC has been irresponsible all along for over 50 years. Why? And to get you to pay the money, they have to tell you tithe or go to hell. Or, oh, you need to make a pledge to the building program. It's the program of God. It's the program of God. It's the house of God. It's the house of the Lord. It's not. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. Find out for yourself for once.
And our fellowship, they'll only let us have a couple buildings. If you were down south, man, they would exempt all the buildings and pay for your haircut and your lunch.
An interesting thing. He likes to talk about heavy taxes, right? Because he feels like he's a church. He calls himself a church. And so every single government should just bend over backwards and give them whatever they want. You know, I don't think taxpayers are keen on that. But here's another thing. How many times is a tithe tithed? In essence, being taxed more than once. How many times is the tithe tithed? And why does it all end up going to Graham?
Not up here in this liberal communist stronghold. Is this okay? Yeah.
Keep on moving on. Don't want to get Mike started on communism. It appears from his Facebook pages and his wife's Instagram and his wife's X account that they are really into the affairs of the world and politics and everything. I hear very little about what he professes to be called to do.
That's exactly what we're living in. The fellowship hall alone is $25,000 a year in property tax. Did it go up this time? 32?
32, and that's on you. 32, and that's on you. Who is you? You is you. Now you empty your wallets and pay big, and pay all the time, and all the things, and all the services, because they are not responsible men.
Don't talk about that. I'm talking about it. It's too late now. I'm already in the middle of it.
This guy is always talking about buildings. And look, the only time they bring up numbers, there was the one video I shared where he was asking about, how much do people put in the offering? Well, back in the day, we would put 100 in. How come nobody ever puts 50 or 100 in the offering? He talked about money then, and he's talking about money now, about taxes. That's it. There's no transparency as far as what does it cost to go there to school, and what do you get for it? There has to be a value to what you pay. There has to be a value. Where does the money come from to pay this dude or any of the dudes up there? Where's the money come from? And how much is it? Why can other churches put out budget statement and you get a printout or something at the very least of money that you've given? These people, they have no desire. You're just supposed to fork it over and not ask any questions. Your money or your life. Your money or you go to hell.
So when you have a minister or a student, they're supposed to be an example and live that exemplary life, and otherwise they should not be a minister. So when you don't pay tithe, it matters not to my salary.
I think this group should be transparent. Where does his salary come from? Where does it come from? How much is it? And he said he gets 3 salaries because he does 3 jobs. That is stunning. So where does it come from? How much is it? And why aren't they transparent about it? And shouldn't they be? And legally, should they be? Are you able to request that information?
But it does make me wonder, are you saved?
There is absolutely zero, nada, zilch in the New Testament. It says, if you don't pay tithe, you're going to hell. It doesn't say anything about paying tithe. To begin with, to add this extra caveat is to put put burdens on people for no reason. They like to talk lately about Pharisees. Pharisees, they are the Pharisees.
Preachers of today, they're afraid to tell the people, hey, you got to pay tithes or go to hell. Really? Well, I'm not going to hide the truth of the word.
Well, that's what you mostly do. Here he's quoting a woman entrepreneur. He said he likes what she said.
And now I'm 40-some years old, and I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm going to run my business and do what I'm going to do, and I don't care what they have to say about it. So that's a great attitude. Who care? Who care? Preachers of today, they're afraid to tell the people, hey, you got to pay tithes or go to hell. It's that simple. As God said it. And if you don't, you're a God robber. You might as well put the gun to God's head and say, I'm going to kill you if you don't give me all your money. What is wrong with you? No wonder you don't have any money, because you steal God's tenth.
This is a lie. Stop lying to these people.
Revelation 21:8 said, all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire that burneth with brimstone.
Okay, as long as you're aware.
I do know.
And Jesus spoke about this where exactly?
And I don't believe they know him.
We have yet to see proof that you know him. The him that you refer to in the Bible, in the New Testament. Where? Where is the proof, Kekel? Where is the proof, followers, that this guy knows anything other than buildings and wanting your money and judging you by that and wanting you to follow him blindly? And if you don't take his advice, he is not a happy man, because he does not allow faith and grace and God's will on your life as spoken to you directly to come into play at all. If you don't follow him blindly, he will lie about you behind your back to all of your friends, your family. He doesn't care how they're related to you. He doesn't care how it disrupts or ruins your life. He will do it.
I don't believe it. You'll never convince me.
Make him show you chapter and verse. He will not like that. He will not like it. But I wonder who's brave enough to even ask the question. Isn't it something? You are fearful to ask questions of a man who's supposed to be a pastor, who wants to bring light and illuminate the Word of God, and this doctrine that is supposed to be just so evident in there. Tithe or go to hell, tithe or go to hell.
And there's a lot of other things they do not do. But again, I'm not your judge. I'm just your shepherd. So I apologize. No, I don't.
Well, as long as he just said it, let's address that. He doesn't apologize. I've yet to see it. Where does he apologize? He wants people to come groveling back to him with apologies. If you just apologize, why, we will let you back in the fold. Making all those people there believe that if anyone leaves, they've left God. And then he goes around and tells lies, and he's been doing that for decades. And I'm going to say this several times in the next few videos. He likes to go around saying, I lie, others are lying. You know what? Come here. Come out here publicly. Go on your own Facebook page, whatever. Go publicly and tell us what the lies are, Mike. You can't. You're a bully. And bullies are cowards at their very core. So they will just say things. They'll just say stuff to put in the minds of his followers that he wants to remain there. He needs their money. He needs the adoration. He needs the amen, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, reverend sir. There are a host of people, a host from all time, from going way back, who are out here watching and listening to him. And you know how many can't say a word because their family's in, and they care more about their families and friends who are still stuck in there than Kekel does. And not just people out here listening and watching who have friends and family in, but people who are out who have been lied about, humiliated, and trodden underfoot by these people, specifically Mike and his wife, that they don't want to put themselves through that anymore. It's time. It's high time to look around and see what's going on and measure this guy's words and actions by the Bible you say you believe in. Not by some organization, some corporation. Is that what you signed up for? Is that what you're about? You want to be part of a corporate structure that's all about money and buildings? You don't even hear this guy talk about an anguish for souls. That's not what he's about. That's not what his wife is about. You know how you can tell? Look what they talk about. Look what's important to them. It's time to be brave. It's time to be brave and step back a moment and do what he won't do, which is self-reflect. And when you do, it's going to come to you through all the years. What are all the conferences about? Enemies, 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 fight, fight, fight. This one did this, this one did that, this one did this. Where is the absolute love, the unconditional love, the beautiful compassion and loveliness that you would expect to find in some self-professed man or woman of God? Where is it? What should his response be as a pastor? Shouldn't it be to pull people aside privately, work things out, not through a text, not through email, one-on-one, look someone in the face, one-on-one, and listen to them and hear them, instead of everything has to come over the pulpit? Am I upset? Yes. Because when you know the personal stories and you can't even tell them about people and what they've been through at the hands of this guy in that place, what kind of church is it that you have to escape from there? What kind? It's not a church as defined in the Bible. It is not. It's a closed society led by a cult leader. And that's why I admire the people that stand up to him and that call him out. And he doesn't like that. He does not. That's unloving. When you figure him out, he has no use for you. He will kick you to the curb, and he will work against you. He will lie to people. He will talk to them. He will text them.
If the staff kind of hurts your neck a little bit, but I really want you to go to heaven.
And he seemingly wants to push and shove everyone the whole way. I don't know. Maybe I've read a different Bible. Since they love being in the Old Testament, there's that very famous Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. And isn't the shepherd, the pastor, supposed to be the same way? He restoreth my soul. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures and leads me by still waters, not turbulent seas, constant turbulence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou wilt get up behind the pulpit and rip me a new one. Doesn't say that. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. They don't wrap me around the neck. All the time I'm being saved from some enemy. All the time. Their necks hurt, Kekel. Leave them alone. Here's more of that beautiful pastored nature that this man exudes.
Not too long ago, the year 1677. Man, I know it's not me because you're sleeping already and I haven't started yet. You should wake up your mind and ask God to forgive you.
In this corporate atmosphere, you have to ask Kekel's God for forgiveness for everything. Everything.
If you were in medieval times, they would come and put one of those bronze helmets on you and make you walk around signaling to all the... You talk about virtue signaling. That's vice signaling. You know, people who wear the mask to show everybody how compliant and awesome they are. Virtue signaling. Well, they used to do vice signaling. If a woman was a tattletale and a gossiper, they'd put a helmet on her that pulled her tongue out, and she had to walk around in the marketplace, and everybody knew she talks about people.
Oh, yikes. Now he's talking about his wife over the pulpit. Whew, boy, that's dangerous territory, man.
Now, shaming is a horrible thing today. I mean, oh my goodness, if you should embarrass somebody, they fall apart. They'll sue you to death. But back then, shaming was an effective deterrent that kept society in control, in control, in control, in control, control, control.
I've shared this video clip before, and I shared a picture of what one of those devices looked like. This is the same guy. Go to the 48 Laws of Power, the book that he likes, that he recommended to students in a Bible school. But aside from that, that is, what is such darkness in your heart to think that way? To think that that's an effective deterrent? Such a filthy way of thinking about people who are nodding off possibly in service. Do you understand the magnitude of what he is saying here against the action that he is talking about? What would he suggest or desire to see done in his heart for something far greater? This is how he thinks. Let's move on. You see, because there's no faith here. There's no faith to be found to just let people come into a service that isn't run like a show. It runs on a certain schedule. There's no deviation. And so the Bible schools run like a boot camp. Of course, that's in the Bible too. And so everything is militant. Everything is, if you do something wrong, you should be treated this way. The pastor's going to get his hook out and put it around the neck. If you start falling asleep, you have to ask God for forgiveness. It's not that he's boring. It's not that he doesn't say the same thing every single service. All he does is come in and try to indoctrinate the people that are there to keep them from leaving by lying about people who have left. That's his whole existence. Prove me wrong. Change my mind.
That's all I want. I want you to really make it, and I don't want to preach to you select parts of the Bible. I want to preach it all the way from Genesis to Revelation. Everything that's in there, I am willing to absolutely unload on you and unload on me.
And why does the Bible have to be unloaded? Why is it not rather imparted or presented? Or you're talking about allowing God to inhabit the faith of those who are there individually. But that cannot happen in these services or shared. They use words like preach at, preach to. How about preach about the good news? You don't hear them say that. It's just not their thing. It's just not in their DNA.
All of us need the instruction of the Word of God, including whoever's up here. Everybody. Preacher doesn't get a pass on all this. There's a requirement of the minister to be an example. Sometimes God can't use people because of the way they live their lives. And when you put them up here on a platform doing something, and if I put a drag queen up here, it's going to tell you, we validate that. That's okay.
Mike loves to go for those crazy extreme examples. Well, you put a liar up there in yourself. So what it tells us is that you validate lying because you allow yourself to be in the pulpit. What other kind of behavior have you recently validated by allowing someone to be in the pulpit and remain in the pulpit even after you knew? This is from one of my posts. I believe it was from May of this year. Hey guys, happy Monday morning, April the 29th. So I found this on the Facebook page of someone from the Philippines. And look what it says. She's engaged to Reverend George Jordan, who is the missionary over there. Here's the problem. The dude is not even divorced yet. And he has spent some time, I assume, courting the very young lady. This isn't a rumor. It's right on her page. But I don't see it announced anywhere else. I don't know if George has a Facebook page. I don't see the organization elated over announcing it. So for all of you that hit the like button or love button or made a comment, congratulations. You might want to go check and just go ask George. George, are you divorced? Go ask Mike Kekel. Mike, is George divorced yet? I put out that original video on April 29th. It wasn't until June sometime that George was actually divorced. And as of this picture you can see here, as of August 4th in the Philippines, where he appeared to preach, he's still in the pulpit.
Had we known, it would have been immediately removed.
This is one of those liar, liar, pants on fire type things.
How you like that? I told you it was going to get deep. Is that too deep? Deep, 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 deep.
How is this deep? How is this deep for those people who came to service on a Sunday morning?
So there you go. What do we think? What do you think we're doing here anyway? Talking about what do you think you're doing? What do you think we're doing here? We're trying to reach sinners.
And seriously, he has to say that because it's not obvious. It's not obvious in his words. It's definitely not obvious in his personal life. So he has to say it, just like the way he has to say we're legit.
Clean up, not justify the filth.
This guy says lots of many words, but not many of them make it through to actions. They just don't. He just says this stuff. Where's the corresponding action?
Would you like the pastor to just put it up on the screen every service? So-and-so did this last week, and so-and-so did that last week. Is that what you would want?
It's like whatever he did the services before the one he's currently in, he forgets all about. He almost does that. He comes just shy of putting the name and the sin up on the screen. He points right at people. He tells them in service, I'm looking at you, I'm pointing at you. Oh, you think this is funny? Oh, that one came in late. Oh, this one did this. Oh, that one did that. What planet is he on? Did he forget he does this all the time? Davis did it all the time. Olson? Come on, man.
You want that guy thrown out of the church. You want the other guy thrown out of the church, but you want you thrown out of the church?
He has such a pastor's heart. And this is how he talks to people over the pulpit. This is how he talks to people in person, through texts.
We do things right.
Because we are legit.
So let the enemies be liars.
Here he goes, man. He's dragging that old horse out again. Isn't he tired? Isn't everybody sitting there tired of it? Like, you can predict this. It's just, it gets to the point where you can mouth it. You know exactly what scripture they're going to put up on the screen. No one's a liar. Who's the liar, Kekel? And over what? He doesn't say what it is. If you're going to say somebody's lying, of course he says enemies. What? He doesn't define who an enemy is. An enemy is what? Someone who doesn't believe in your group? And if that's the case, and they've presented information and something is a lie, then say what it is. Say what it is. Be specific. He's never specific. He just says stuff over the pulpit because he wants to indoctrinate everyone sitting there that anyone is an enemy who's out. Anyone is an enemy, especially if they dare to expose what he is and what the group is. And this is all he does. He comes out, and I don't know how these people aren't just bored out of every little piece of gray matter that might be left in their head.
And the truth be told. The best defense against enemies and hate is the truth.
Enemies. Hate. What's the hate? I haven't even talked to anyone who hates anyone. But he has to say that because he cannot allow anyone in the group to think that we don't hate any of us. He doesn't define enemy. He doesn't define hate. And he doesn't define, because hate is a strong word. He just says stuff. And because nobody holds him to defining things or being specific, just hate, there's enemies, there's hate.
And they'll question my character and besmirch me to try to deflate the idea that I might tell the truth, but I tell you the truth.
What's the truth? What's the truth and what's the lie? If you can't be specific, then maybe you're lying again.
I will not lie to you.
Yeah, well, a lot of people in power have said things like that.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
And for all of Richard Nixon's issues, he at least said publicly that he welcomes the examination. I can't see Mike welcoming an examination of anything at all. It's not cool.
And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I will not lie to you. Who says that? I mean, when was the last time you had to say that to somebody? Did you ever have to say it to somebody? Is that something you say if you're just going through your day being truthful? I don't know.
Even to save face.
Very interesting choice of words here. This is sounding mighty sus. What's the situation where you have to say that to somebody or a group of people? As a pastor, I will not lie to you, not even to save face. It's so, it's just a quick thing he said. But when you put this whole service together, it's bizarre.
God has brought them that they might hear the truth, and you should want them to hear the truth.
I mean, did they even hear the gospel that morning? He's talking about hearing the truth. And of course, he's the one dispensing the truth, right? He changes gears again. I don't know why. It's always about him, his virtuous ways. He does everything more than and better than everyone else.
We would rather give than take.
You see what I mean? It's kind of manic the way he either is void of remembering what he just said a couple weeks prior, even a service prior, or he's doing it on purpose. Or a little of both. I don't know. I'll let you decide. Remember this from just several weeks back?
You say, well, when do I get to expect something? When does the pastor get to say, hey, would you do me a favor? You should be taking care of your pastor. I don't know about you guys. Some of you have been pastors. It's the most thankless job you can have.
You know what the thankless part is? The thankless part comes from the leadership of this corporation posing as a bona fide group of believers. Couple that with the fact that Kekel has never done what he's saying to the people there, to the other ministers. He has never done what they've done. He has never, ever, ever, he and Tanya have never, ever started anything from scratch. They don't know what it's like. Can they do it? Can they start from scratch with nothing, like most other people in that group have done? Dare I say, all of them have done. Let's just say that a majority of them have. It's such a diss on them to count himself, hey, right, guys, it's a thankless job, what we have to do as pastors. He doesn't know what it is to be a pastor. He proves that every time he gets up behind the pulpit, and he is lording over something that other people have labored to put together. That's what he's done the whole time. He rides the coattails. It is thankless. It's thankless from the leadership. Every single conference, everything you do is never good enough. And coming from a man like this, no one should have to sit there and put up with it.
It's a thankless job. They expect you to pray. They expect you to be there when they call. They expect you to be at their beck and call. They expect you to help them get what they want. Sometimes they expect you to take them to the doctor. Call Uber. Don't call me.
This is one of the most egregious parts of this whole diatribe of his, because this guy, he's so out of touch. He's so insulated from the real world, especially the real world of the ministry, as many of us endeavored to go out and fulfill it. These are the types of things you do to help people and to be there for them. And you don't think twice about it. And are there people who take advantage of it? Of course. Are there people that are very thankful and truly in need? Yes. 1,000 times yes. When you're not a corporate suit, you think about more than the bottom line and buildings and cash flow. It's about other people, not ourselves. When you are a real pastor and a minister to people, you leave your wants and needs and desires. And you know what? By doing that, they're met anyway. When you really are a minister and a servant, you step outside of yourself all the time. And you don't think twice about it, because that's your nature. It's your nature. You're not writing people off lists and giving up on them and telling them to go call Uber. It's not what you do. You care about people. You extend, right? You're extending the compassion and love and understanding. I know Phil Kinson doesn't like all that love stuff. He doesn't like all that Jesus' love stuff. But that's the premier thing, isn't it? It's the premier thing. And when you are a minister, you leave self. It's not a thankless job. It's a selfless commission. If you believe that, it's a high calling, right? It's not a job. It's a thankless job. Ugh.
You say, well, when do I get to expect something? You should be taking care of your pastor, according to the Bible, according to the Bible, according to the Bible, to the Bible, to the Bible, to the Bible, to the Bible. But I see around here very few that even attempt to do so. It's about a low percentage. It's about a low percentage. I know there aren't many that help me out, and I'm saying it not that it might be done unto me. Do I get to expect something? Even at the office, these guys, man, they hit the gate at 4:31. Whew! Nobody says, got anything to carry? You got anything else? You need anything? No, they're just gone.
Here Mike is talking about himself and his wife, because that's what a good pastor and minister does. They brag on themselves.
We would rather give than take. And some have said that we're all about taking money from people. Is there anyone here that knows better than that? You know better than that. It's hard to get me to take anything from you.
Another cult tactic. Say a statement and then make sure you get some sort of agreement in the crowd. People are afraid. Who's going to disagree? Who's going to openly disagree? I mean, seriously. What a crazy question to ask these people. This is Sunday morning service. All of this is from the same service. Can you just imagine being a new person there? And he's saying they're there to win souls. They care about people going to keep them from the fire and brimstone? Really?
It's hard to get me to take anything from you. You say, well, when do I get to expect something? It's hard to get me to take anything from you. You say, well, when do I get to expect something? Not too long ago, there was an anonymous envelope in the offering to me and my wife. It was $500. It was anonymous. Because they heard that our air conditioner went out a few weeks ago. It's fixed. Don't you dare. And it said, God bless you, appreciate it, and it just made us want to cry. I said, what? How did they even know that our air conditioner was out? We didn't get up and advertise. My air conditioner was out. I sure wish somebody would give. You should be taking care of your pastor. There are people that hint around because they want something from somebody. It's Pastor Appreciation Day next week. You should be taking care of your pastor.
Oh, don't even get me started on this whole Pastor Appreciation Day thing. Makes me want to vomit.
If you appreciate me, do this and do that, or it's my birthday today. You should be taking care of your pastor. Going to have a baby shower, make sure your gifts are all over $150. You should be taking care of your pastor. These covetous people, they're not going to enter the kingdom of God. You should be taking care of your pastor. We don't roll that way. You should be taking care of your pastor. We don't roll that way. And you know why they gave it anonymously? Because they knew I would not accept it. That's why. You should be taking care of your pastor.
A little reminder, gentle listener, all of this stuff is from a Sunday morning service where I assume you have the most new visitors, or maybe newest visitors, maybe newest members, maybe a new Bible school student, and they're just lapping up all this information so they can go out and perpetrate the same things on someone else. If they have an inclination, they will do the same thing. Fortunately, that's not everyone. It's so fortunate that it's not everyone. Here's Mike talking about how wonderful he and his wife are. They wouldn't ask anything of you. They just wouldn't. They just can't. They can't do it. They just can't do it. They can't bring themselves to do it. Right? Right? Hand behind ear, listening for an amen.
You should be taking care of your pastor. So when the devil and his minions, like little bouncing things with the glasses, come along and try to tell you that garbage, you remember that your pastor's not that way.
Here he goes, telling you what to think. Because he knows if you try to think about it yourself, you might come up to a different conclusion. They're sitting there in a Sunday morning service. He said earlier in the service, quite vehemently, that they are there to win souls. And yet, he has spent how much of the service praising himself and his wife and looking for recognition. This statement right here that he just made, this is how you You use a session like this. This is an indoctrination session. That's all these are. And you pay for it. You're going to be indoctrinated with what to think. I personally don't believe that these men know the Bible they claim to believe in at all. I think they have their key verses, their key themes, let's say that, because you can make a theme fit almost anything. And trust me, you have to believe me. No. Don't trust me, actually, is the better thing to say. Go and look for yourself. Go look through not just the clips I've shared, but go look at the bigger messages. Go look at them in context and go see what the themes are. Oh, you want to know a great place to go for that? Is Phil Kinson's quote Bible unquote studies, where he stands there and tells people what to think from whatever God laid on his heart. And funny, all God lays on his heart is about enemies, haters, and bitterness, and fighting, and the devil. And the theme was the same on this past Tuesday. I just could not believe it. Why am I always hopeful that I'm going to go in there and hear something finally, maybe? Why are they afraid to sit down with the people? If they're going to do it anywhere, like how can they want people to start home groups, right? How are they supposed to learn about that? They don't do it up in Graham. They don't sit down in a Bible study area. Like what if he took why does Kinson even have to be the one to do it? But let's say he did it, and there's others there, right? McKay, Malone, all these other ones that could easily, Gazang, DeFrancesco, who just name anybody there who's other than Kekel and Kinson. And you have them maybe sit in groups with people and let them ask questions and inquire. If you're really there to impart something, if you are the headquarters and you are the Bible school, but I don't think they know the word. I don't think they know the Bible they claim to believe in. And I'll add further that in hindsight, I don't think Davis did either. He had his select things. Kekel liked to say earlier in the service that he wants to present the whole Bible from start to finish, and yet they don't. If they do go to different verses, I mean, they really like hanging out in the Old Testament with the angry God. They love that vibe. Love it, love it, love it. Punishment, boot camp. That's what they want. If they knew the Bible, why would Davis and why would Kekel, out of all the books they could assign in a Bible school, why not teach them or show them or introduce to them resources on Bible history, on Greek or Hebrew, something related, or just all kinds of things, but anti-communism and the go-getter and who moved my cheese and Napoleon Hill, the This Is I paper that many students had to write under great duress. Why would you do that in a supposed Bible school, Bible seminary, Bible college? They've changed the name how many times? I'm telling you, it's a scam, and they're hucksters for how they perpetrate all this on people who just thought they were involved in something that they were going to be able to go out and help people. And instead, they're stuck in a Bible school class where Mike brought down swift retribution on someone, on one person, and everybody suffered for it. And they had to do a Bible study, not a Bible study, a book report on that anti-communism book. It is about getting your money. Where does the money go? Are they paying the teachers that much more? Are they not paying them under the table anymore since 2006? Maybe with the cost of living, it's a whole $30 now or something. I don't know. But where does all the tuition money go? Of course, they don't have much now. They only had 9 graduates, for crying out loud. What's that? They're hurting. They need the money to pay the taxes. Where does the salary money come from? Mike says he has 3 salaries. Where's the money come from? And you have all these phony baloney classes. And if Kekel really did sit there one night in a music in the ministry class and play his guitar most of the time, is that what you paid for? Is that what you toiled for at your job and hurried home to your family and choked down dinner to race to class, probably going way over the speed limit to be there on time so you don't lose a semester for that? You have to step back and look. What are you paying for? This is a corporation. They've said it. They're selling a product. You have to ask, what's the product? I'm the customer. What am I paying for, and what do I get, actually? You have to look at all these pieces. They're not disparate pieces. They all fit together and show a picture that you have to be brave enough to see. That's why all they do is indoctrinate you with what to think about their spin on verses. So what are some of the main themes? The main themes are tithe or go to hell. It's about fighting an enemy. It's about not listening to anyone who's left. Not one person. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's the child that came out of your womb and you carried around for 9 months and you fed and loved and cared for and paid for and caressed and was there when they were sick. If the man of God tells you, because he will point to chapter and verse in there and tell you right where he has the authority to do that, to tell you to have nothing to do with them. See, they don't want to sit in little groups and have to answer questions, because I don't think they can. If it's outside of their prescribed talking points, they are not going to know how to answer you. And that's why they don't think you're smart enough. No, let me say that differently. I think they intuitively know that if they do that up in Graham, in the Bible studies, that you're going to see through their lack of knowledge, because they only know the Bible in so much that it buttresses the points they want to make for their man-made doctrine. Because that's why you have even all these ministers are just hanging up there doing what? Media ministry? What is that? That's nothing. How does that do anything for anyone? How is that helpful? If you really believe that the whole entire 8 billion people in the world are going to hell in a handbasket, and you're pretty much the only group, because go ahead and ask them who else. Let them name someone else outside of their own group that's true and real. They don't want you asking those questions either in a Bible study. But see, the men and women who are out there in the churches and who are just, I believe, not doing what Graham does. And Graham is insulated. They're so out of touch with reality. Other people are doing the work. They are just sitting back, and they prance into service, and they humiliate people and tell them they're not doing enough. And you have all these little babes who should be out scattering across the country and the world, but they can't, because Graham needs your money. Will you follow the money? Will you look at what these men are actually preaching and teaching and see the themes and see how they don't know anything other than that? And for you to sit there, anyone who sits there and after hearing Phil say he doesn't go in for that Jesus is love stuff, that should be anybody who really says, I believe in the Bible. I believe what it says. Well, what do you say about that? How do you rectify that? How do you reconcile that in your mind? Have to ask these questions. Be observant. Look around. Ask questions, even just to yourself. But the fact that they won't do that up there, and yet how many men are out there in churches and they're having intimate Bible studies. Let's call it a home group, which is probably the most natural way, the most biblical way, if you will, to do something like that. Not standing up there in a suit at a lectern telling people what to think. That's not helping them. It should be with the purpose to prepare them to go be teachers as well. Instead, and sadly, people come in, they get up, they get ready, they hurry up to make it on time to the service, and this is the kind of stuff they hear. This braggadocious stuff from a man who's void of anything spiritual and faithful, full of faith.
When I travel all over the United States preaching at all these churches, and they do what they should do, and that is take up an offering for me, you should be taking care of your pastor to cover my expenses. Rarely ever have I taken an offering. I always give it back to the church. Fellowship meetings, I don't take the offering. Cool. But I could. I have the right to do so, and it's probably the right thing for them to do, but I don't. You should be taking care of your pastor, just so I can make this boast. You should be taking care of your pastor, just so I can make this boast. I'm not in this for that.
And you're supposed to applaud and say amen because you didn't take their money. Does being a braggart bring about faith in people to believe in God? I'd really love to know that answer.
I'm in this. I'm well taken care of. God has blessed me. And, the people that don't have any money hate it when you have money. Yeah, I have money. You can tell by what I drive. I have money.
And the bragging continues yet. Oh, yeah, and the old favorite, you're just jealous. See, that's what people do when they're in an extremist controlling group and they're the leader. They will smash you down if you even think about questioning. Why does he get 3 salaries? How is he paid? How much is he paid? How come we don't know all these things? And then he's going to brag about, yeah, you could tell I have money by the car I drive, by the houses I live in, by the cruises I take. All people want is for you to be honest about it. No one cares. Be honest. That's not what it is. And then he's going to demean anyone who questions anything by saying they're jealous. Just like if you're someone who is trying to warn others or expose them, you are hateful and bitter and an enemy and of the devil. And I'll reiterate, he's doing this braggadocious session. Brag, 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 brag. I'm this, I'm that. I don't lie. I don't do this. I do that. I don't do this. This whole Sunday morning service. But it gets even better.
But you know why? Because Pastor Davis taught us when we first got married, save 10% of your income and set it aside and save it to invest. We set aside 20 and bought houses and properties and sold them and bought others and upgraded and went along through the years. And that's why. Not from taking it from this.
From this? He must mean from this thankless job. Here's the thing. Here's the difference again between Mike and everybody else. Mike married the founder's daughter. So lots of nepotism in there and things that they were allowed to do that others weren't, such as maybe not get a vasectomy and be able to start a family, such as invest 20%. Do you know how many people scrape by, and maybe many still are? Because they're in there all the time giving money, giving time. But what is their time? Unless you're close to them and you're hanging out in Graham as one of those ministers involved in these big important ministries like the choir and the media ministry, you aren't able to. How are you even able to? How do you have time? There is a caste system. There always is in cults. And it's no different. And it is the Kekels and the Davises right up there at the top. everyone else below them. It's a whole different lifestyle and culture. Whole different. And I believe people see it, but they try to believe what Kekel says, like, I deserve it. God's blessed me. I put aside 20% as told by the man of God. On a Sunday morning, when you probably worked your butt off to make the time to get out there to knock on doors like a Jehovah's Witness, it's a pointless exercise is what it is. They just want you hopping, man. They want you working. And then this is what cult leaders do. They throw in your face, oh, man, we put together 20% and bought properties and did this and did that. Well, guess what? How many, raise your hand if you remember back in the day when Davis would mention stuff about real estate, but then if someone did buy their own place, buy a condo, or they're called apartments, whatever, bought something and then rented it out or lived in it themselves, he would get on them for not putting the ministry first. That's that push and pull antic that cult leaders pull. And Davis did it, he did it well, and Kekel does it, and he does it well. And if you keep falling for it, I'm telling you, you're never going to measure up. You're never going to measure up unless you're in the circle of people who are allowed to just go full tilt with spending their time doing all these things in real estate and being a landlord and being involved in fixing up places. Okay, let's try to finish this episode out. Mike's going to give more bragging, and he's going to end it with a bragging prayer. He's really, really late to the prayer party. And when he shows up, he's just patting himself on the back, but praying for the wrong reason. And he still hasn't come out and said what any of us have lied about. Specifics. We want specifics. Just say what it is.
And so rage on. If you don't like that, I feel sorry for you. Man, when somebody's sick, who's the first one to bring a bowl of soup to your door? Point at them.
This whole service. Brag, 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 brag. I have a lot to say about what he picks and chooses to say about what is done or not done for people. And that'll have to be for another time.
You know why? Is it so they can make points? No, because of love. It's just love.
I read that love vaunts not itself. Does things without looking for the pat on the back and the attaboy. This is what this guy does. And he spent a whole service, a Sunday morning, doing it.
That's all it is. And when people go to spitting on that, it hurts. And they go online and say evil, nasty, horrible things because that's the kind of people they are.
Now, I don't presume to be included in that because I keep asking for what they are. What are the lies? What is it?
But I'm going to show you what kind of person Jesus is today.
Oh, he waited till the very, very end of the service. Let's hear how Jesus is.
And I know I'm a little lengthy here, but you're getting used to it, I think. Not that I want to continue that. But I saw Nathan walk in there. He's sitting right in the front row. He's been gone. He ran like Jonah.
Yep, let's humiliate. He talked earlier in the service about do you want to see your sins up on the screen? He can't just leave this alone. He can't just say, welcome back, Nate. He has to tell some details about his story. And he does that for a reason. So this guy, whoever he is, left and came back. What I want to know is, did he pay his back tithe, and how much is it? Because Kenson took great joy. His big joy was this person came back and they paid $8,000 in back tithe. I wonder how much Nate, whoever he is, owed, and did he pay it yet? Because It's clearly a thing. They believe it. They took the money from the guy. They took the money from me when I paid back tithe, and I'm not the only one. I love to see that verse, chapter and verse, but let's go on and see what he has to say.
Got him a Tarshish ship back to Oklahoma. And he contacted me and said, I want to get right with God. I want to come home.
This poor guy, he thinks the only place that's home is NTCC. That is so sad. It hurts the heart to hear this. It really hurts my heart.
So come on. But he didn't show up. So I had his room cleaned out. I said, I guess he's not coming. And someone texted me today, saw Nathan walk in the dorm this morning. Is he still in school? I just texted back, said, he's okay. Because I love Nathan. And there's not one of us that hasn't had a Jonah bone in our body at some time. And I keep extending the hand of mercy to him because I want to see him make it for God. And I extend that same hand to others because I want to see them make it for God. It's not.
He's extending the same offer. It's always this, right? How many clips have I shared? How many times has he said it? If you just come back and apologize and make it right, because they are the portal. They are the doorway to being right with God. You have to be in that place because no one else is right. Kekel said it in a recent video that I had shared. I believe they're the last hope for America. You have to enter through that portal, through them, through him. Never does this guy mention all the despicable things he's done, and he needs to repent. I'm telling you, a guy, when he really does get to a place, if he believes there's a God, the one he says he believes in, he will have a moment where he repents and where he comes before the whole entire church, their version of the church, and makes it right and declares why and how, and that he's the one that needs to repent and apologize and make things right with God. Extending the hand as if he's some merciful person. I just care about souls. I just spent this whole service bragging about myself, but honestly, I wouldn't lie to you. I love souls. I care about souls. Now, I will proceed to tell you and to brag about how much I love souls, even mine enemies.
Isn't this a ministry of reconciliation?
Oh my God, I never heard anything so funny in my life. Reconciliation, dude. Your whole unreconciliatory ways are plastered all over FactNet, are in texts that people have, are in emails. You can't lie. You don't believe there's a God, because if you did, you wouldn't be lying like this. Oh my God. He clearly doesn't believe in the God he says he believes in, or he wouldn't utter these lies.
You Pharisees should get rid of your robes and your shower shoes. Quit shuffling around like you're better than everybody else.
I was going to say earlier in the service that Mike needs to get some little tinkle bells for around his ankles so everybody can hear him coming and look up and genuflect, because he's so amazing and he's just does everything right. And this is a tactic. You turn it on your on anyone who you consider an enemy, on anyone who dares to speak out that you utter lies and are a liar. The formula for this has been around since the beginning. Why shouldn't he employ it? And also because the 48 laws of power.
Because you're not. In fact, that makes you worse than everybody else.
Then you need to be looking at a mirror as you say those words, Mike. No joke. Like, I don't like to see people take this kind of course in their life where you see the seeds of this behavior early in their life. And we've seen glimpses of it through the years. When Davis was alive, it wasn't as prominent, but it was on FactNet very prominent. And now, as you hear his messages from the last 4 years streaming online, it gets worse. And this is all he does in a service is damage control, bragging, damage control, bragging. And what is the end of someone like this? What if they don't change? And aside from what will happen to him, what about those he's still corrupting and infecting?
But give me a man that wants to repent. Give me a guy like Zacchaeus that'll come down and say, if I've done something, I'm going to restore it, Lord.
The motto is everyone else but me. Everyone else but Mike. That is his motto. That is the thread through all of his messages. It's everyone else.
Jesus' greatest expectation is that he expects us to confess.
We're all ears, Mike. Go for it. Confess. Confess to the lies. Confess to the unloving, mean ways that you've treated people, even recently. Even after this message. Even after this message. Did you say something unloving to someone who tried to reach out? Did you? Did you rebuff someone who behaved in a manner that was more Christ-like than you?
There are many who are no longer around because they won't admit they were wrong.
Most of us are no longer around because we hated being in a cult anymore. We didn't like the cult. We hate cults. And so they're basically very controlling and have nothing to do with the Bible whatsoever. And many of us were sick and tired of the false doctrines too. That's something you cannot come back to once you realize the truth. Now, my personal opinion is that the rest of this service is a show, is such a show.
They have to blame the church and the people, the leaders, and everybody in the church, but
Who's blaming everybody in the church? Who out there on the internet right now is blaming everybody in the church? Another lie, another false statement from this guy. Nobody's blaming anyone. We're identifying you're a cult. We don't want to be involved in it anymore.
Listen, they don't know what they are doing. Jesus prayed for them.
Another false statement, but he has to say it. I get it. You have to make your followers believe something that's not true. And those that just take your word for it blindly are like, yeah, they don't know what they're doing. They know not what they do. And he's going to liken it to what Jesus said when he prayed. It's so far from the same thing. It's not in the same galaxy. But he's got to do it. He's got to do this show. He's just bragged the whole service, and we'll get to a little bit of prayer bragging now. Like, how awesome is he to rise above? I mean, it's been years in the making, decades even, but he's decided right now it's advantageous because there's recently been at least 3 people that I know of who have left.
When you sin and it doesn't bother you, you don't really know what you're doing.
Wow. You're the one that needs to say this to yourself. And yet you don't.
I don't even want to read it. It just says, by sound doctrine, exhort and convince the gainsayers, but
You don't have a sound doctrine with which to do that. That's why all you do is lie and be a bully over the pulpit and humiliate and come out dragging the same dead horse. It's like a skeleton now. There's nothing to beat.
the other day, I'll finish with this. This happened to me the other day. All these attacks are coming in and everything.
So he spent the whole service bragging, and now he's going to try to make himself a victim, and he's going to be the bigger person. It is his cult's 101, man. Have to see it. He should be a man full of shame and hang his head and get some self-awareness, dig deep, and admit to everything, to himself first. But instead, he pulls these shenanigans in the church show.
And Meek started attacking me online with Tracy.
He likes to use that word attack. If you want to see what Meeks said, go onto YouTube, and there's various videos. Just look for Meeks, and it has a little avatar next to it, and read what he wrote. He related experiences. That's not attacking. That's relating, and he should be able to speak out and tell what happened. But now he's going to be a big crybaby because he can't take it, and because he has to preserve whoever's left, and whoever feels partial to Meeks and to Davis and to others who recently left, and who he has to squash any bits and pieces that people might have that say, wow, if that person left, it had to be for a reason. And Kekel's going to be like, no, they were never of us. They're the devil. They're of the devil. They're being used by the devil. They're attacking. They hate. They're bitter. I'm a victim. Feel bad for me. I just told you the whole service what a great stand-up guy I am. Here I am offering this hand of mercy. Come back home. Come back. Come back. Just apologize. Just repent. Pay your back tithe. And you can come in. You can enter through the only portal on earth to the truth. It's here in Graham, Washington. And if you want to support our ministry as we try to reach souls around the world for the Lord, you can do that on Cash App. Or you can go online, or you can put it in an envelope with your name on it. Make sure you put your name on it, because we have to know who paid the tithe. Otherwise, we're going to think you didn't pay the tithe, and then I'm going to have to humiliate you over the pulpit. And you don't want to have that happen, do you? Because then I'll be putting your name in here to be prayed for. Because he has to try to convince them, like with all of us who ever left, that they were evil, they were wicked, they were never right, they were never of us. That's the problem. We were part of the cult.
And Tracy and William Davis and these people saying the filthiest, rotten, nasty bunch of lying things about me.
Hey, if that's what he believes, that's what he believes. What are the filthy, nasty things? Ask him. Tell me. Write it in a comment. Put it on Facebook. Put it on the blog. Put it on YouTube. Put it on this YouTube video. I've invited him to go ahead and put it out there on his Facebook page. Put it on your church page. Go ahead. Tell. Use my first and last name. Do not care. I dare him to say what the lies are. What's the filthy, nasty stuff I'm saying? What is it? If you're going to stand there and make a show of praying for us because we know not what we do, then tell us what we're doing wrong. What are the words that are filthy and nasty and lies? You poor man. You poor bully. This is just classic Kekel punk move.
And I felt that, inside. I said, Lord, I think I'm going to pray for him. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pray for them. Because Jesus said, pray for your enemies. And when I first think of it, I think, what? Them? And I started praying for them. And you know, I felt a release of all those feelings that I was feeling. I really did. So while I didn't plan on that, I was just praying for them because that's what Jesus said to do. But as I prayed, I really, really felt like they don't know what they're doing.
For the record, I absolutely know what I'm doing. For the record, Tracy Pelfrey, I know what I'm doing. I'm exposing and warning others with my humble opinion about why New Testament Christian Churches of America Incorporated is a cult, and Kekel is the Grand High Poobah leader.
They don't really know what they're doing, just like the people around the cross of Christ.
This dude is likening himself in the same way he recently likened himself to Moses in a service and to Elijah. Now, he's likened himself to Jesus on the cross and what was done to him. You could say, no, Tracy, he's just saying, he's modeling his life now. He's praying finally. This is August 2024, and the dude finally decided to pray for his enemies. Weird. Very weird. But whatevs.
Father, thank you this morning for the great mercies of God and your love toward us. Bless your congregation today. Help us to live the life before the eyes of men in love and mercy and kindness, Christianity, that they may see hope and a reality in Jesus Christ by the way we live.
And after praying for me and for Meeks and William Davis, which that part, just cutting it out. But this part here at the very end, after praying like this, he knows if he followed through on that in his life. I'll leave it at that.